right?
Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Good
Oh,
enough.
wait, did we lose somebody? Wait, Paul, Jim, no, John, Brad, Leslie Page. Yeah, we have 5.
All
Jim
right.
is wrong board again. I got him mixed up. So
Mhm.
okay, so he's just a spectator.
Okay,
Okay, yeah, we're good to go, Paul. We have a full board. Jerry, I'm sure will be coming in. He wrote and said he's planning on it. So
all right, so let's call this meeting to order. This is now the 19th of December. And this is the Zoning Board of Appeals in Maynard. We're meeting virtually on Zoom. And we have 2 applications to discuss. And we have some business things, and I think we ought to take care of the business first, so we don't lose that in our excitement to close the meeting.
okay,
And that is, Paige had put in a request to get a promotion. And I don't see a problem with that. So we're not changing her salary. It's still 0,
Mhm.
but she wants to be, what do you call it? Full-time, active
Yeah.
member? Whatever that technical term is. And
Yeah.
so I don't see a problem with that. Do you other board members have any issues with that?
Not at all.
All right, well, congratulations, Paige.
yeah. We'll have to set it up through the board.
Thanks,
That'll
Alan.
mean now Brad moves up next senior, and then we have to advertise. We'll advertise for a new alternate to take the second alternate, and Paige, I'll set that up through the select board.
Great. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to continuing to serve, but now as a full member.
Yep. And you're still, what do we call it? Assistant chair?
Vice Chair.
But
Yeah. Vice chair, yeah. Because you've done a great job on the meetings that I just had to be able to dial in and heard it was well under control. So thank you.
Okay, so we need a new junior alternate. I'll take care of that too. Do you want to do the minutes, Mr. Chair, or do you want to just jump
Yes.
right into the hearings?
Yeah, let's do the minutes, because I think if I found that one confusion, I think you fixed that.
Yeah, I got Mr. Crenshaw mixed up somehow. I don't know.
And so I need a motion to approve the 2 minutes. We can do them one at a time to make it simpler. So let's do the October 27th. Do we have an approval for that, or a motion for that?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 27th, 2022 meeting of the Maynard Zoning Board of Appeals. Is that the amended one?
Yeah, I
Yes.
hope so.
As amended, then.
And then we get a second on that one? Brad seconds. And do we have a vote? All in favor?
Yes.
So that's sort of like unanimous. Now, the
Okay.
other one, the November 14th minutes. Do I have a motion to accept those? Any corrections or anything?
One correction.
Ooh, we found one. Good,
Yeah.
tell us what it is.
I was present. My name is not on the present members list.
On the 14th,
Yeah,
I'll be darned. I will fix that. For heaven's sake. Oh,
So do we have a motion to approve with correction?
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 meeting of the Maynard Zoning Board of Appeals as amended to include John Corville in the membership as present.
We get a second.
Yes.
Brad seconds. All in favor. Since we're all visual, we can wave at it, right? We're all in favor.
Yeah.
So that motion carries. Now let's, unless we have some other little stuff, let's get into the meat of the meeting here.
okay.
Having a public hearing, special permit application filed by Justin King of 18 Garfield Ave, Maynard. The applicant resides at the subject property, a single-family dwelling located in Zone S1, single residence. Per Maynard Town Bylaws, section 325, the petitioner is requesting a special permit for a trade shop use to operate a small engine repair business at his residence. So Justin, can you explain your petition?
Yeah, so I've been kind of off and on as far as, running the business. And I really turned the key on it back in this past January, so January of 2022. And, things have been going well. I told myself that if things weren't gonna keep progressing, that I just wasn't gonna keep going with it. It wouldn't make sense to. We're not like we're making a killing over here or anything, but things are getting better. So I keep seeing that, so I keep going forward with it. And I think, the goal is to be able to keep doing it the way I'm doing it until we're able to get into someplace different. It's difficult doing it the way I'm doing it here. There's a lot of work involved. It's 7 days a week. It's from when I wake up to when I go to sleep, pretty much. And I'd like to get away from that at some point, but in order to get away from that, we got to keep doing it the way we're doing it, until we're able to, basically afford getting into someplace different. I do have neighbors to think about, and we take them into consideration. One of the biggest problems is traffic. So, regardless of how much time I work, my business hours, as far as people being allowed to come here, I keep that between 10 a.m. and sunset. Mondays are, and they want to come up here 100 miles an hour, get the trash, and get out of here. So I keep people pushed off till later on Mondays. And it's things like that I've noticed as we've been going.
So I'm getting a broken set of,
As to what's going to be an issue and what's not. Another one, I guess, would be noise. Sometimes.
so Justin, just let me pause you for a moment because you're breaking up on us. Your video crashes and we're only hearing every section or third word kind of thing.
Okay.
So-
If you turn off your video and just use audio, sometimes that helps
Okay.
the breakup.
See if we can, let's see if we can do that. There we go. Is that any better?
So far, so good.
All right. All right. So, so like I said, it's, traffic I knew would be an issue, and these are the steps that I'm taking to contend with that. And things that I think about. I wouldn't want people coming by my house all the time, and I try to think about that stuff. The other issue, I guess, would be noise. There is some noise involved in doing small engine repair, startups of machines. Not this time of year, but during the spring and summer, there's lawnmower blade sharpening. And I try to space that stuff out. I'm not going to start up a bunch of machines in one day. I'm not going to sharpen 20 blades in one day. That wouldn't happen anyways, but I try to spread that kind of stuff out, and we keep it during, normal hours. And those normal hours with neighbors, I think, in my opinion, is somewhere between 10 a.m. and, 4 p.m. And that's just stuff that I do. And with the neighbors, we give them free repairs on their equipment for sure. In the wintertime, the town, they have a lot of trouble coming up this hill. Sometimes they make it to about my driveway and give up, and then they take off. I actually snow blow the street from Crane Ave all the way up to the top of the hill, up to Russell. Another thing that I try to do to try to soften the impact that I have around here. And just, talking with the neighbors, and from what I've heard, for the most part, everything seems to be okay. I've gotten a specific complaint about people turning around at the top of the hill, where Russell, comes into Garfield. And on my website, on Google and on Facebook, I make everybody call me. It's by appointment only here. I don't want people showing up on, just showing up. And I'm really clear about that. And the few that do make it past that and do come here, I let them know that, that we can't do that. We're not running that kind of business. I have a lot of parts here. I have probably about $16,000 retail value in parts, gaskets, blades, things like that. Those are for repairs only. I'm not selling any retail. I don't want to, and nor do I do it. So it's things like that I really try to take into consideration. Down the road, sure, these are things that I'll do, but not here. It can't be done here. So I guess, that's kind of the real thing with it. And like I said, there's goals with all this. I'm not making a lot of money doing it this way. It's a lot of work this way. But we're making the steps to get into something better. That I'm headed towards the way Mascarello's used to be is honestly what I'm headed towards. I don't want to be affiliated with, a dealer, say Aaron's or something like that. I would like to stay independent, and really provide a service, to the area. And from what I've heard from customers and whatnot, I'm achieving that. And that's what I've wanted since day one on this. I've got quite a history, quite a background in doing small engine repair. I'm 41 years old now. I got my first toolbox when I was 12. And just, we want to crank out valid repairs for people and without the dealer price. The dealer has a lot of overhead. Not that I don't have overhead, but they have a lot more than I do. And I reflect that into, pricing and how I price things and how I charge things. And I guess, mainly, I want to be able to keep going with this. This is my uncle's house. I moved in here, 3 years ago. It was supposed to just be for a little bit. And 3 years later, I'm still here and it's been working out good. They're a little bit older. So they need the help around the house. And it's nice to be able to have an income, however minimal it may be, but it's enough to pay the bills and stay here with them, maintain this house. This is a rather old house that needs kind of constant upkeep, just to stay at the level it's at, let alone try to, make it any better. So I just, I knew that this was gonna come and it should come. I was expecting this when Asman there showed up here. I didn't know who he was, but as soon as he pulled in the driveway, I knew who it was. I've worked construction. I worked for Jimmy Fenton for about 7 years. So, I know what a building commissioner looks like and, what he looks like when he comes into to a house or on a property. And I was expecting all that. And, I was, pretty much prepared for it. And I've been waiting for this to happen. I'm glad it's happening, because it's things like this that keep the community going. And there's rules to things. And, I understand that. And I just want to be on the up and up with everybody. And hopefully we can keep doing it the way we're doing it for right now. So I guess my main concern is knowing what other people's concerns are. Because right now, what I've just said to you is what I know. So I guess I hope that this clears up any of those issues and whatever I need to do to, accommodate all that so that I can continue doing what I'm doing.
I appreciate your story and your comments there. Now, I would like to have members of the board ask you any questions that they might have.
Sure.
So Brad, let's start with you. You're first on my computer.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that great description of your small business. What do you think is your goal to where you might outgrow your business in your present location?
That's going to boil down to the income. As of right now, I'm on repair number 348 as of January 1st. I have some halfway decent business software, and according to that and everything that I've entered in, we'll be lucky if we get up over 34,000 this year. And that's going to be really pushing it because not everything goes into the computer. There's a lot of expenses on my end. So income is the major factor in that. I would like to get into a shop. I'd like to end up somewhere down on Knox Trail Road, to be honest. That seems to be the place as far as shops kind of springing up. Years ago, my father had a shop down there. He bought Bill Parrish's shop. And that's kind of where I keep looking and where I keep headed.
Okay, but right now you're the repairs that you're doing, which sounds like you're getting close to like one per day.
Yeah, and that's if you were to break it down in numbers, it's one per day.
Right.
Right now, it's a little bit more than that, but then come July, August, things come to a real screeching halt for me. And that's when we kind of do some upkeep around the house here and whatnot. So those numbers are over the entire year. Right now things get a little busy.
Okay, so when you have a push where you all of a sudden the season starts and you're getting a lot of, say, snow blowers now, where do you put them all when they show up? I mean, do you have a space to keep them?
Yes, I line them up and I keep two rows. I have a row coming in for repairs and a row going out for repairs. And they sit in the driveway. And I guess that would be another concern that I would like to know about, because it hasn't been said to me, but I'm sure it's on people's minds. And that's just simply machines being in the driveway, an eyesore. But again, I don't know if this is an issue because it's never been brought up to me. I would certainly think that it might be, and if we need to do something about that, I certainly can. And if that's going to be the, what the deciding factor, then we definitely are going to. So it's in my driveway as far as machines go. They come in downstairs where I'm at right now, one at a time. And then once they're done and ready to go home, I put the real push on customers that they need to pick them up. I do tell people that I charge $10 a day after, 3 days of a sent invoice. However, I've never actually charged anyone that fee, and I'd like to not charge anyone that fee. And I don't think that I will. I think just saying that I will usually kind of puts the push on people to get them out of here. So if we're talking numbers, at no point in time have I ever had more than 10 machines here. And I don't like to get up that high either, because that's a lot of work for me. It's a little stressful on me as well.
Okay,
So Go ahead.
So I only have one, my last question is, where do you do the repairs? Do you do the repairs in the shed? Or do
They-
you do? Go ahead.
Downstairs into the basement. I have a ramp here, and then they come down one at a time off the row of machines coming in.
Oh, so it's in the basement of the house?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you for answering those questions for me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem.
All right, next on my list is John. You have any questions of Justin?
Yeah, hey, Justin,
Hi, John.
one of the times you cut out was when you were saying the hours of operation. Wonder if you could reiterate that?
Yes. Now as far as me actually working, it's 7:30 right now. When I'm done with you guys, I'll probably still be down here, working, and but I'm inside, I'm downstairs. As far as people coming here, picking up machines and dropping them off, it is 10 a.m. to sunset is what I tell people. In the summertime, I put a time on that, and that's 6 p.m. Right now, it's sunset. I don't want to unload machines in the dark. I don't want cars out there on the dark. It's liability issue at that point. I don't want anybody getting hurt. I don't want to get hurt. So that's what we keep it to. And then Mondays are trash days up here. That's, it's tight up here. The trash guy wants to come up here, get his route done, and then get out of here and on to the next one. So I definitely push people off until the trash guy comes by, because he doesn't want to deal with that. And they're all very nice to me. So, we take care of them as well. One issue with that, and I was talking about before, is just the people turning around. I reiterate this to every customer, and it gets frustrating because some just simply do not listen. I have it listed on my website as to not turn around in the road, to use the cul-de-sac down on Russell, and they still turn around in the road. So I just, everything's by appointment. No one could just show up here. I make everybody call me, and I need a time as to when they're gonna be here so I can get out there and direct them. And even when I do that, they still turn around in the road.
I don't know if I'm gonna get a chance to talk. But I'll try.
Thanks, Justin. I'm good.
All right, thank you, John. Leslie, do you have anything?
Well, I was wondering, there was some mention in the write-up about the storage of oil and things like that. And I don't know what's considered excessive inside of a home. I was a little concerned about that, and then I wanted to make sure that there was a smoke detector and a fire extinguisher in that area.
All very valid things to bring up. This is my aunt and uncle's residence. We live here. One of the last things I want to happen is a fire or something along those lines. I have an extinguisher out in the shed. I have an extinguisher by the back door, and I have another extinguisher down on the other end of the basement down here. We also have smoke detectors with carbon monoxide detectors in the house. Anyways, it's an old house with some very old wiring and things like that. And it was a concern before I was doing this. Because my aunt and uncle are elderly. It is an old house, and concerns of mine before, I started doing the repair here. The oil, I very purposely put that on my application because I'm not 100% sure what the rules are on that. I will say this much: when the oil is, it gets to a point, I keep it in 5-gallon jugs, and I have a guy that picks it up and he reuses it. He burns it at his shop, in a waste oil heater, and he loves my oil because it's very thin. It has a lot of fuel in it, bad fuel that burns quite nicely in his heater and heats his shop, which is nice. And he comes on demand. I let him know when we're ready, and he comes and picks it up.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. And Paige, you're at the bottom of my screen, so I think you're next.
Thank you. Hi, Justin. This is Paige. I apologize if you said this. My internet froze for about a minute earlier on, but when all of this equipment is being loaded and unloaded, I'm envisioning some of it may occur by trailer or something. Do you have enough room in your driveway for that, for them to pull completely off the road when they're doing their loading and unloading, or does that occur partially in the road?
It does. The trailers do occur partially in the road. I don't get a lot of trailers because I'd say 90% of what I do is all homeowner stuff. Many homeowners don't have trailers. It's not like years ago. I remember growing up as a kid, everybody had a trailer. So it's mainly pickup trucks, and we pull them into the driveway. People have been bringing their, I used to do pickup and delivery. I hired a guy to do pickups and deliveries for me, and I was paying him $140 round trip, giving him every dollar of it, and the customer was paying for that. And I still couldn't hold on to a driver. And, I mentioned that fee to customers, and they're getting their machines here on their own now, renting U-Haul vans, renting U-Haul pickup trucks. The few that do come here on a trailer, yes, we unload them out on the street. I'm very specific about where they need to park, and that there is only one way in and out of here, and that they cannot block the road.
Okay.
And a while back, I had a gentleman bring a tractor here, and he parked out in the road, and I denied him work because I told him multiple times that he cannot do that, and then when he came here, he kind of thought he could park where he wanted, and I sent him on his way. And I'm pretty adamant about that. I can't have one person spoil it for me for other people. And I don't have a high tolerance policy for it.
Thank you. And then I just
I
have
wish I
one
did
other
this at home.
question. I think you mentioned that some of the machines are stored outside, but it sounds like you limit it to no more than about 10 at a time. But can you just describe the property a little bit, if it's screened from both sides by a fence, or if there's any types of trees or vegetation, or?
So the driveway is
Holy moly.
one side of the driveway
Sorry,
is the house.
Justin, I'm just gonna interrupt you for 1 second. I'm just gonna put those people on the phone on mute just because we're hearing some background. So keep going.
Okay. So one side of the driveway is the side of the house, and it's about 3 feet off of the driveway. So that blocks one side. And then the other side is all yew bushes. And they're about 8 feet tall right now. And really you can't even see through them whatsoever. And it also blocks quite a bit of noise as well, having those bushes there. So there's really the only real way to see into the driveway is to be standing at the end of the driveway.
Paige, and Mr. Chair, I have the Google Street View up. If we all want to look at it together, I can share my screen, but just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Not ready yet.
And that was my last question, so thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So I have some questions as well, if you want to put up with another person asking you questions, Justin.
I am fully prepared for questions.
All right. So when you commented that the building commissioner visited you, what provoked him to come say hello to you?
I'm not sure. insinuated that somebody may have called. And that's about where the conversation ended as far as that, he wasn't gonna mention, but it was insinuated that somebody called, and I'm assuming it would be due to people turning around. And I think that would be the major issue,
But you don't know.
but I do not know, no.
And so he recommended that you get a permit for your activities. Is that right?
Yes, he did. And like I said, I was expecting it. So it wasn't it wasn't a shock to me by any means. And we went ahead and started making those steps. I reached out to Asman there, and then he directed me to Bill Nemser. And then we just did what I was told to do.
Okay. So flammability and fire management is something that comes to mind as well. Where do you store the oil?
The oil is kept outside. Fuel is kept outside. Fuel is a major issue with repair and with small engines. So I pretty much tell people that any drop of fuel that comes here is going to be mixed in with the waste oil. So when these machines come here, I have a little bit of a system. They kind of come here, we give them an initial inspection outside, and then I drain all the fluids from them outside, and then they come down into the basement, no fuel in them, no oil in them. And
Okay.
then they'll get filled up with oil inside, they get rolled outside, and then that's when we fill them back up with fuel, fresh fuel, and we start them up, give them a test run outside. And then that's where they stay. Outside.
So next question is, you're talking about noise management. Where is the noise generated?
That would all be in the driveway.
So
And
your sharpening activities as well as running the machines?
Yep, again, because sharpening blades, that produces some sparks. And that is done outside, again, in the driveway.
Okay. So I think what we want to do now is ask if there's anybody at this meeting that wants to speak in favor of Justin's application.
I'll unmute those phones just because I know it's difficult, just in case they are.
Hi, we can start if that works.
Okay, where are
I'm
you
Andrea,
located?
and this is Evan Vanna. We're at 1 Russell Avenue.
We're like right across the driveway on the road from Justin.
Okay,
And I would say, we certainly support his business and, understand that it's his livelihood. But also have, just general kind of questions, I guess. And just, concerns about the noise and the fumes. For us, the turning around in the road, I don't really notice that. I'm sure maybe other people could speak to that, but, and then I feel like in general, we've, if there's ever a block up in the road, like he's very accommodating in getting the car out of the way so that we can pass down Garfield Ave. So that hasn't been an issue for us. I think the primary issue for us is really just the noise and the fumes. Our backyard is right across the street from the driveway. So sometimes in the summer mostly, it just can get kind of smelly and noisy. And we have 2 small kids and we're in the backyard a lot and spend a lot of time back there. So while we're not, we want to support this, absolutely, but just also want to kind of express that concern and maybe try and come up with a solution that would work.
all right, thank you.
Justin, this is Ellen, your neighbor. Hi,
Diane,
can you hear
Ellen.
me? Hi,
Yeah, so
Bob and I
introduce
just,
yourself.
my name is Ellen Conquest. I live at 3 Bates, which is behind Justin's and his aunt and uncle's home. And my husband and I, Robert Conquest, really have enjoyed knowing Justin these past 3 or 4 years. He helps his neighbors. He's a nice young man. He's helped us in the past many times, offers his help. He's a good person. We see him working very hard every single day, and he takes good care of his elderly aunt and uncle, and we really want him to be able to have his small business repair shop. And we hope he does well so that maybe someday he can attain his goal, and he should be able to get that permit, we hope. And that's what I want to say. Good luck, Justin. Talk
Thank
to
you, Ellen.
soon.
All righty,
You're
Ellen.
welcome, dear. Okay,
right.
dear. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Anybody else that wants to speak in favor of Justin's application? We have somebody on mute there, Julia. I don't know who they are.
Yeah, there they go. There was one more person.
Linda Inman and Sharon Kane, can you hear us?
Now we can.
Okay, I would like to say, both of us, Sharon and myself, that we support this business. The only thing I'd like hours of operation, like a Sunday off, and we support him. We think he's doing a wonderful job with himself and helping. He really helps his aunt and uncle a lot.
We just didn't get an address. Sorry to interrupt. What was your address?
20 Garfield Ave.
Thank you.
We live right, I can see everything from my house, right next door for him.
You're up the hill or down the hill?
I'm up, we're up the hill.
So the opposite side from the driveway.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So, we really don't have a problem with them turning around. I don't know why that was said, but it's right in front of my house that they turn around, and we don't have a problem with it, but we wish, they would go down with their trailers because they don't know how to back up with their trailers.
No, they certainly do not.
No, they don't. It's quite comical to watch in the summertime. But we have no problem with him, with his business. He's really trying, and I hope that you let him have his business.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Justin. You're welcome.
So there's another person here, an iPhone. Do we have an identification of the iPhone?
And
I've been
you only need to
struggling.
identify yourself if you are going to speak.
I've been trying to get Jerry in, so maybe Jerry, I've been working with him. I told him to try to call in.
The iPhone's still on mute.
Mhm. That's odd.
I think they just left. So they might have just been someone who was observing the meeting.
Okay. So Julia, you commented that you have the Google Maps image. I would like to put that up because that picture was taken in May of this year. I went by there today and it's a different collection of equipment pieces, but there's still a reasonable collection there. So if you could put that up and we can have Justin comment on, there you go, thank you. As to how waterproof, weatherproof are all these different types of equipment.
Again, this plays into with the customers in picking up machines. And I have a talk with them. Very few have actually brought it up. Many of them I've brought it up with them. And what it basically boils down to is I see what these machines look like coming to me, and they're usually pretty dirty, pretty messy. And one of the major things I do in all these services is cleaning. So any customer that specifically has an issue with their machine being left outside, I accommodate them, and I do have several covers here. And they'll go over the machines that, customers have a problem with this. Many of them do not. And I think that basically comes down to, because they know what their machines look like. And when they leave here, they are, we wash them all, and they're spotless when they leave.
But they
And-
can work in the rain.
Yeah. I recommend that they don't be left outside. Granted, they do get left out here during their repair. And that's just for the big machines, the tractors. Right now, the machines go downstairs, so we're not working on them outside. And snow blowers are outside in the weather, being used in the weather. So it's not a concern there, with customers anyways. And, like I say, the few that do have it, and a very few, we accommodate them, and and I look at the weather. I did snow plowing for 20 years of my life. So watching the weather is kind of a thing for me. If we know that we're going to get a lot of rain coming, we cover things up. And things like generators, those definitely get covered up, and the generators kind of come in one at a time here and there, and they'll go in the shed. They're small enough, they go into the shed. They have electrical components that, really shouldn't be out in the weather.
Right.
And those go inside.
So I drove by today and saw a different collection of equipment, but it was still a reasonably complicated collection of equipment. And so one of the questions that you commented on was, you have a way to not store them in the driveway. How would you do that?
No, they get stored in the driveway.
No, if that was an issue for your permit being issued, you said you had a way around that. How would you do that?
Well, if we need to put them out back, and I have a garden area out back, if I need to level that off and park machines out back, then that's my alternative plan. And that's kind of where I kind of figure things may end up, and how it may have to go, and what I'm prepared for. I don't know if I really want to level down the garden and do that, but if that's what needs to be done, then that's what we'll do.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Just have one more question. I think you mentioned that you drain the equipment of all fluids and bring it inside, repair it, and then bring it outside and put some more fuel in and test it. How long do those tests usually take? Are we talking just a few minutes, or is it?
Yeah, test runs, it's even advertised that every machine gets a 15-minute test run. And that's just simply letting it run for 15 minutes and then we make sure that it is running the way it should be. So if we're averaging a machine a day, then, there's gonna be a 15-minute test run once a day.
Thank you.
One question I did not ask, and I need to, is there anybody that wants to speak in opposition to Justin's application? We still have a phone on mute. I don't know who that is.
I think they already spoke.
Okay, these people spoke. Good. So, board members, how would you like to proceed? Should we stop obtaining information and deliberate? John is nodding. Leslie, what are your thoughts?
Fine, yep.
Paige is nodding. Brad?
Yep, I'm ready to deliberate.
All right. So do we need a motion for that?
Make a motion to close the hearing part of the meeting.
Right. Close public. Right.
A
And
public,
do we get a second?
Second,
John is seconding. All right, so all in favor of that? Okay, so we are closing the public comment. Now, this means only that we aren't accepting new information, but we can ask for it. And Justin, we don't go away because we might end up coming up with something that you need to answer for us.
Alrighty,
So, Julia, if you could put page 3 and 4 of the staff report up on the screen to help us figure this out, that would be good.
Yep, just give me one moment. Of course, I pulled up the wrong. Said page
The
3.
bottom of 3 and then, or is it page 2 and 3? It's page 3 and 4 of the PDF, but it's probably, no, it is page 2 and 3, excuse me. So the bottom of page 2 and then the top half of page 3, where it gives us a list of things that we need to think about.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. Let me know when that pops up for you.
Keep going.
So we're going, so there's one, right? So this one, and then,
That, yeah, yep, back up. Up there you go.
I'll start up here and then we'll
Yes.
move, I'll move down as we go.
Yeah, thank you. So, board members, this is what we need to meditate upon. And then we need to go to the next section. If we just scroll down, there you go. Hours, traffic, noise, lighting, screening, odors and fumes, and other trivia. And so if we go back up to the first one, community needs, traffic, adequacy of public services, neighborhood character, environment, and fiscal impact. So we got quite a few things to check off and rationalize here to get Justin his permit. Comments, please.
well, I would say that it definitely is fulfilling a community need. He seems to be doing his best to deal with the traffic aspects of it. I'm not sure what relevance adequacy of public services is. There might be an issue with the neighborhood character, just because of all the machinery that could be visible from the street. As far as environmental impact, possibly the running of an engine for 15 minutes, although I would be guilty of that myself with my vintage car. And he would certainly have to be sure that there's no possibility of spillage of any of the oils or gas or anything like that. And fiscal impact, I guess, whether or not property values would go down as a result. I can't imagine what else that would refer to. I guess that depends. There was only one neighbor who was had any complaint, and that being, I think, about the noise.
There was some comments about vapors too, the fumes.
Yeah, noise and vapors. right. So. Yeah, so I guess it's really comes down to noise vapors and what's visible from the street.
And the traffic issue. He's trying to deal with it, but is it physically possible to deal with it? The driveway is an option if he could only accept activity within the driveway.
Yeah,
You know, if the driveway was, available part was longer, that he could, back the trailers in, and if the clients can't back a trailer, maybe they shouldn't be driving one.
yeah. But how many are being dropped off a day? Just one, it sounds like?
Well, like today I had two, small machines, and those are quick unloads in the driveway. Even myself, I'm doing this just as myself. So, for me to take any more than two in a day is almost overwhelming, because that's an interaction I need to have with them. And that certainly cuts into my time. And that's taken care of by the appointment only factor. Whereas I have everybody call me, it's stated on my Google site, it's stated on my Facebook site. So I do tell people, if I have two people dropping off that day, then we're not going to take in a third. They're going to have to wait to another day. And that's not just for the traffic. That's just me being able to handle it. And we'll do that.
Yeah. So that might be a restriction, that there can only be 2 drop-offs a day. I guess if business gets better than that, you should move and hire help.
Right.
So,
Just to remind the board, Leslie, excuse me, but the trade shop permit, this is a request for, is a annual renewal.
yeah,
1 year.
okay. So I don't know whether there's anything that can be done about the actual screening of the equipment in the yard, or whether that even really bothers anybody. If you have to go out of your way to see it, or sounded like it's really only visible from the entrance to the driveway, but.
Well, where I struggle with that is neighborhood character. It's a S1 residential, single-family neighborhood.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a nice little cul-de-sac neighborhood, quiet, no through traffic. And now you have business visitors coming twice a day, perhaps, dropping equipment off or picking it up on a narrow street on a hill. And negotiating that narrow driveway to back in or drive in and drop stuff off. I worry about the neighborhood character and the traffic issues. So this concept of a trade shop, and what we've been trying to identify it as for, cleaning up our zoning regulations, is if you can't hear it, can't see it, you don't know it's there, it's okay. But this, because of the noise, the vapors and everything else, you can see it, you can hear it, you can smell it. And so we have some conundrums to deal with here. So I'd like to ask Brad to comment what he thinks relative to his work on cleaning up the zoning regulations, what he thinks.
Okay, so the two types of home-based businesses that we're looking at was one which did not require any permit because it had zero impacts, basically. And then another type of permit was a conditional permit, or we called it, I don't know, type B or something like that. I don't remember exactly what we call it. It's something that does have some impacts. And so it requires a special permit. So the special permit needs to take in these things exactly like we're considering right now. Take into account for that. So that's the differentiation
Chairman.
between the two permits. Or two types of permit. Well, needing a permit and not needing a permit.
And, okay, so that's, the criteria, but in this particular case, it sounds like it's the more noisy and obvious kind of location and activity. And so how would you regulate it?
Well, there's a lot of things that you could consider. Like for instance, the noise. If you think about in the springtime, when people are mowing their lawns, how long does it take for someone to mow their lawn? Is it 15 minutes? I guess it depends on, how much noise, how large their lawn is, and then are they running a leaf blower? Are they trimming their trees with a chainsaw? Things like that. So if there's going to be noise coming from machines on a daily basis.
That's more than a homeowner doing his lawn.
Right, because typically I think a homeowner during the, peak of growing season with grass is probably maybe once a week or maybe twice a week, depending on the conditions. So I think it's probably more than a homeowner would be doing. But that's
Oh,
not
I
necess-
disagree.
But that's not necessarily a criteria that we need to use as our, as determining whether it's, is that the noise level that we're going to tolerate.
Well, in my neighborhood, I have to tolerate that sort of noise on a daily basis, and it's way more than 15 minutes a day, or like half an hour, 45 minutes.
Sure.
So that's an
Mr. Chair?
interesting point you make.
So then there's
I have to agree
there's
with
also
Leslie,
the
because I've got
consideration of the
One
traffic.
person on one side doing one day and another person on the other side doing the other day.
Yeah,
One has 7 o'clock in the morning, they've got their contractor in doing it, and then across the street, someone else doing theirs on Sunday afternoon, so.
It was
every day of
nice.
the week.
It was nice when they were doing construction down on 62 there, because they were making a lot more noise than me.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question of the applicant?
Sure, if it's relevant.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, Justin, in the event that the board asked you to move the equipment of the storage in the backyard, where you created an area for it where it was screened from view somewhat from the road, on days where there was a potential to make a lot of fumes, you could test the motors in the rear of the house in the backyard. Is that correct?
Yes, I most certainly could.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
couldn't some, why, in my brain, the kind of screening where I'd have to show you with my hands.
Lattice.
Lattice, yeah. Couldn't some lattice screening be designed that maybe has a hinge on it so that he can easily move the equipment behind the lattice work screening, and in that way diminish the view of it from the street, and that way he doesn't have to do something that would be environmentally negative, like destroy a flower garden.
Yeah, well, those are interesting options. I'm still struggling with the basic concept of running a business out of the basement of a house that has to spill out into the driveway. And also now we're thinking about letting it spill out into the backyard. To me, a trade shop is simply that. It's a shop. You go into the shop, do something, and then some product comes out. That's where I'm struggling. And, you know, we just to, you know, put this on a slightly different focus, we've been at it for an hour. And we have another case to go in front of us this evening, and I appreciate their patience. And so I'm wondering if we want to continue this until our next regular meeting in January. Or are we ready to rapidly develop a set of criteria?
Could I add something about the screening?
Yes.
Because I know the screening does seem to be a point that we should probably address. That we should probably address for any type of trade shop. That we and we actually have done this in the past as well. Is there are types of like chain link fence, temporary chain link fencing that they use for construction sites that have a cloth over the you know, a cloth webbing, which acts as it's a screening, which is very lightweight and you can move it very easily. And you wouldn't really need very much of it, maybe 2 sections to go across the driveway. And that way you could also move it up and down the driveway as needed to, you know, so it wouldn't necessarily have to stay in one place. So you can move it as accordingly to when the equipment comes and goes and how much equipment, you know, gets to fill the driveway, you know, on certain times of the year when there's a big push for, you know, lots of equipment that's being done.
Let me give you an example of, I think, what you're describing. And that's at the end of Acton Street, where we had that case with the trucks. And I
Yep.
believe they put that kind of very ugly fence along the side of Acton Street. Is that what you're describing?
That was sort of ugly because I don't think that that they really put any screening on it. Did they? Did they put like a material across it?
I thought there was. I thought there was some kind of fabric across it.
Yeah, because there's some other places in town where they've used that, like behind the open table, where they put up the screening across their chain link fence, which covers up all their trash cans and, you know, the recycling area. I don't know if you've seen that in that parking lot. And also along the bike route, where the Emerald Green or whatever the landscaping company is, that starts about where the Cumberland Farms is, and it runs towards the center of town. Put up a bunch of screening there.
That's pretty ugly as well. Yeah.
Which I think was pretty effective. It seems like something like this might be effective, where it's a chain link fence and you can cover it, and that would act as a, the criteria for screening. Because there's other businesses that probably could use something like that. Like there's landscapers around town, and there's all sorts of people that have, a lot of equipment laying around in their driveway, plows and stuff like that. In the summer, things like that could really benefit from some sort of screening like that.
Yeah, but it's not the prettiest thing out there.
If I could hop in here for a minute. I have to agree with Paul as far as screening goes. I've been in construction quite a bit of my life, and I certainly agree that is some ugly stuff. I have envisions of a nice swing fence, maybe not at the end of the driveway, but down at the corner of the house, and having 2 gates. This would boil down to a cost factor on my end. But if, this might be the push for it. It's been on my mind since day one of this. And if, this might be the push where I have to put some money into it. Wouldn't be the first time I've put money into this whole thing. So, and I'm certainly not afraid to do that.
Mr. Chair, perhaps with the, given the time and the idea that the applicant seems pretty astute with this sort of thing, perhaps if we did a continuance, if we had a continuance, that the applicant has heard all the concerns and I think understands them. It may give a little time to create a plan for how he could address this, bring it back to the board on January 23rd. And perhaps we could resolve this.
Yes,
Right now.
That's
Oh, I'm
what I
sorry.
would like, that's what I would like to do, but I do have one other technical question for Justin that has occurred to me, and I was just waiting to leap in. And that is pollution management of spillage of either oils or gasoline when he does his emptying and filling. What devices does he have in play to manage any spillage? Does he have a pan that he puts the machine on to drain it and then collects all the waste? What does he do? Justin?
I actually have a tool where I don't actually drain anything. It gets sucked out. So I get the majority of it out by using this tool, and it's literally just a hose that goes in and it sucks it out into a sealed container. I got this a few months ago, and it's time saving for one, and two, it diminishes any possibility of spillage. Have we had a spill in the driveway? Yes, and we have Speedy Dry and things like that. And again, this is where the construction, comes into play with me. And I have dealt with things such as oil tanks that have broken and things like that. And that is a very, very, very expensive, problem to deal with. So something that I've been aware of since day one, and we just make sure that we can't do that. One of that is having that extractor tool. And then another, just, I have Speedy Dry on hand for these, things that could possibly spill.
All right. So Bill has made a suggestion. And what I would like to have happen is that we have a continuance of this hearing until our January regularly scheduled meeting. And in that time, Justin, you have heard our concerns and the questions that we have asked. If you could put a proposed set of criteria together for us that lists, hours of operation, traffic, when people can come, noise management, any lighting that goes on after dark, the screening idea, the fence. I'm glad we agree on something. That's really cool. The aesthetics, any odors and fumes that you generate, and things like that. If you could put a list of criteria together, that'll help us speed this along at the January meeting.
Yes, I most certainly can do that. And I think this is gonna be the push for me to come up with some sort of a nice looking, something that fits into what a home should look like. As far as putting screening, a fence, a gate at, I think it should be at the corner of the house. That would kind of make more sense. And then keep all of my stuff down and back of that.
And if you can come up with a system to manage noise and odors, visual, I like the idea of your fence, but noise and odors can be obnoxious to the neighborhood. And how would you deal with that? Or would you go off-site to do it inside of a building somewhere where you can muffle the noise and manage the odors through some system? or be in an industrial district like you were talking about at some point. So things like that to think about and sort of put together what you could live by, and then we can discuss that and say, sure, or no, you're too generous on yourself. We want to be more restrictive. Whatever that answer comes up to be, let's talk about that at our next meeting. Is that acceptable to you?
That's fine with me. Yes, more than acceptable.
Good. So I need a motion to continue this meeting.
All right.
Leslie is waving her hand. Do we have a second?
Oh,
Yeah.
you don't want to hear it?
Oh, yeah, let's make it a formal one. Let's.
Okay. I make a motion to continue the public hearing for the petition of Justin King until our regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals in January,
January 23rd, Leslie.
January 23rd.
Second,
Do I have a second?
second,
John seconds. All in favor? Yay. We got everybody on favor. So thank you, everyone, for that. And now if I can find my agenda, I will. I can't find, I got too many screens open on my computer. So let's look at this.
Did Jerry ever make it? Is that Jerry on the other line?
Jerry sent an email that he can't get in or couldn't get in.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth with him. I told him to call in and I don't know. He's in no man's land.
All right. So while he's in no man's land, let's move on to the second public hearing that we have. And again, I appreciate your patience. This is a public hearing application filed by Gabe Weigel, 4 Sheraton Ave, Maynard, requesting an amendment to a previously approved variance. The subject property at 4 Sheridan Ave is a non-conforming structure located on a conforming lot. And I'm going to have to ask Bill what that means. The property is within a single-family residence zoning district, a 25-foot front setback corner lot to construct a garage and adjacent concrete pad. The request would amend the revised approval within the same reduced setback distance. And the reason why I'm confused is it's just hard to explain what that means. Is it conforming or non-conforming? So before I get Gabe on the conversation here, I want to understand from Bill, what's the difference between a non-conforming structure and a conforming lot?
Julia, I'll let you jump in on
Okay.
that.
So I will say that Gabe has a presentation that he's prepared and I uploaded to Board Docs. So he'll go through that and his visuals might help, explain this a little bit better. But basically, the lot itself is conforming. The non-conformity is that the house itself, that the structure was a non-conforming structure in the first place. And then he built a garage with a variance previously to build within that setback. So I will say, I would like Gabe to kind of go through and explain that a little bit more. And then I can go through the technical zoning stuff after you see the visuals. Because I feel like in this case, it is a complicated case. It's a modification to a variance, not a new variance. He asked for 10, but he only did 15. So Gabe, if that's
Well,
okay with Paul.
Well, I will accept him to try to describe the difference between non-conforming and conforming. But before we get into that, this variance that you're referencing
Yep.
is a consummated variance from 12 years ago. Correct? It was
Yes.
2010 that the thing was put together.
Correct.
And sometime after that, the building permit was issued and the building was put up. So it is
Yes.
now part of history. So we're not going for a variation of that. We're going for a new variance is the way I read it.
So we're modifying that variance itself.
Why? What's the difference between going for something new on something that has been in place now for over a decade?
So the reason is and again, it's a complicated one that Gabe can explain, but basically the way that myself and Rick Asbin looked at this case was more of an administrative error than it was a needing to be a new variance. So in the first variance, they allowed this concrete pad to be put in. The intent of that concrete pad for Gabe, who is the one who had that variance, applied for that variance in the first place, that concrete pad was always going to be a structure. That's the whole reason why he asked for that pad. He just didn't have the funds at that time to build the rest of that structure. So it should have said in the variance, in the original variance, that, you know, he was asking for all of this, because once you exercise even a part of a variance, it lasts. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So he put up the concrete pad with the intent to always put the structure in. And now, you know, fast forward 10 years in talking with the building commissioner of, you know, okay, I'm ready to build this. We found this issue. So that's why we're approaching it as a modification to the variance, because of the fact that, you know, the intent of that variance was to put a structure there. But it doesn't say that. So we can't allow that legally.
So in contrast to that, what was built, and with the numbers on the plot plan that he put together, sorry, Gabe, I'm stealing your thunder, but I just want to get this understood, is the garage he put up on that structure, according to the plot plan that was offered, is a conforming lot for lot coverage percentage. If he puts something on that concrete pad, he now exceeds the lot coverage percentage.
No.
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 Are you sure? Because I went and measured the numbers looking at the plot plan, and the
Right.
existing structure is
Right. According to the survey that I just had done, I'm within the maximum amount.
with the new addition proposal.
Yeah.
So I don't know about this being a modification of something that's been consummated 10 years ago versus a new variance request. That's where I'm hanging up right now. So board members, how do you read on this?
Well,
One of the things that you guys don't have yet is maybe Julia did provide it to you. This latest survey was
Yes.
just completed, so I don't know if that made it to everyone.
Yep. So then the latest survey was uploaded to Board
Okay.
Docs this
Okay,
morning.
thank you, Julia.
So
I'm
the,
curious about the fact that, and I signed off on this, the original.
You did.
Yes, but
You and Paul.
I know more than I knew then. I'm surprised about the fact that it says in the original petition or information that went along with that, there was a uniqueness to the property owing to the 15-foot unpaved town right of way between the roadway and the front property line of the petitioner, and that this is a unique condition in this neighborhood.
Yes.
Is that to imply that every house in this neighborhood has that? Because there's, as a member of the town tree committee, I can tell you that people are willy-nilly cutting their town tree, their public shade trees, if that's true.
So it's very unique to this one street. In fact, that the town, when these plots were starting to get chopped up, their intent was to put a larger street. They never did. They actually only ended up putting this smaller, about 1 lane dirt road. So when he's asking for a setback, he's asking, it's from his property line, but the reason why it's unique is because that property line isn't the street front, like the frontage of the street. So
Which street?
Sheridan.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry,
No.
Driscoll. Yeah, Driscoll.
Yeah, I
no dirt
have
road, though.
some pictures that I can show you just to help.
And yeah, and I think it would really help for Gabe to go through his presentation. I will say, Paul, if you guys go through this and you decide you want it to be a new variance, it's still the same exact. You have that right to either modify this variance or grant a new one. It's the same exact process. So if you don't feel comfortable doing a modification and we want to just start over with a new variance, that's fine.
Thank you.
Oh, but I'm curious to know, are the setbacks the same on Sheridan and Espy and Driscoll and O'More? None of those streets have sidewalks. Are they all like that?
Not necessarily. So it has to do with the rights of way versus the property lines. But I can go over the map with you at a different time. And
Okay, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we can go through that and make sure that, we're on the tree aspect.
All right.
Um,
So before we get going, and I'm sorry I took this out of order, Gabe, because I was just terribly confused as to what this case is all about from the document side. I need a 5-minute break.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
So anybody else take a 5-minute break? Go for it. I'll be back.
Where's our little timer, Julia?
I know. Don't worry, I'll be timing it. While we're on our break, Leslie, I'll pull that stuff up for you while we're sitting here.
Hey, Leslie, remember what we did? We did Keene Avenue. Remember that?
Keen.
Keene Avenue, we did a subdivision over there.
Yeah.
And that was the advantage, we had as part of the subdivision, we had sidewalks and street trees put in as part of the subdivision, because we had it from, basically, we had a blank slate,
Mhm.
of all the homes, because they went in at once, so we did that. And,
So
more? I can't remember. I don't.
let me, I'll share my screen while we're just sitting here. Unless Leslie, you want to go take a break.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So as you can see, let me just pull out here for a second. So this is the neighborhood.
Mhm.
So you can see here, for example, on SP, and mind you, this is not, we have our issues with looking at online GIS. So it's not fully accurate, but you can see here that like these property lines go farther back than the rights of way. So that the town could technically, come in and put a sidewalk here, for example, because it's within the right of way. But the town currently just uses like that much of the area for road. So there's a larger right of way that's being used. Unlike if we go over to the main road. So here on Great Road, you can see there, these property lines are much tighter to the actual used area, what's actually used within the right of way. And so, even down here on Keene, what Bill was saying, most of the time now, there's a little bit more, the planning of the road and the planning of the parcels being chopped up. There's a little more coordination, back when the rest of this area was being designed, it was just, they were looking so far in advance and thinking that they needed to have like a huge 2-lane road, and then the town ended up not wanting to do that, or not wanting to do it for some reason.
Mhm. So the 15-foot let's see, so where the blue dot, yes, that's that property. And
Yep,
then the 15 feet is from the edge of the pavement back 15 feet or?
nope, it's from the property line. Which is this
Yeah.
line, this yellow line. So it's not from here,
Yeah,
so that's why this area is unique because, you know, they're really it's deceiving, you know, the whole point of setbacks is to have you set back from the road. But in this case, it's not a setback from the road necessarily, you know, or another person's property. It's even farther than that.
mm-hmm.
Um,
So probably when this came up before, because visually it appears.
Exactly.
So they have more. So I'm wondering about the fact that it's encroaching on the 15-yard side setback as well.
I'm
Yep, so
back
it's-
again, and I just wanted to make a comment here that if we look at what he posted or what Julia posted today, it has a nice line of where the edge of the pavement is on
Yes.
survey plan. And that might answer your questions, Leslie.
Yep, and in the presentation that Gabe's gonna show, he also shows that line of pavement as well.
Okay, the challenge we have with this property is that it's a corner lot. And
It's a corner lot.
It does not have a side lot. It's only front lot. It has two fronts and no
Two
side,
fronts, two sides, no
Yeah.
back.
no back. That's, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yep, so the two road sides are fronts, and then the two sides that are adjoining with other properties are considered sides.
So I think with that, we've got a handle on your presentation, Gabe. So I've read the request, though it was published, and now it's up to you to explain to us after we've gotten totally confused here as to
And-
what it is you're looking for. And so if you got a presentation, I assume you're going to coordinate with Julia to show it.
Yeah, I'm gonna attempt upon Julia's approval to hit share screen. Let
Yes,
me
you
know. Should I do that now?
you should be allowed, yep.
All right, share screen. I'm going to share.
And then you want to choose your,
Yep, all right.
and then it just takes a minute for it to go through.
All right. I think I'm sharing my screen. Does it say Town of Maynard, Massachusetts on the front?
Nope.
Not yet, but it might just take a 1 minute.
Okay.
Should have popped up by now.
Okay, yeah, let me try. Okay, oh, actually, you know what? Hit it.
There you go.
All right,
Go.
all right,
Ta-da.
okay. I think I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, there you go.
So this is just the public hearing announcement, which I think we've read a few times and you guys are familiar with. And so I'm gonna go to the next slide, which hopefully will help help folks understand what's going on. So basically, 12 years ago in 2010, I was granted a variance to build this two-car garage, specifically within 10 feet of the property line along Driscoll Avenue, instead of the standard 25-foot setback. So you can see where the garage lies now is not the 25-foot setback. And the second bullet shows or explains that I actually built the garage 15 feet from the property line, meaning 5 feet further back than I could have, right? So I got, essentially permission to build it 10 feet from the property line, and I built it 15 feet, just because actually I wanted that longer driveway. My goal here today is to explain to you that I'd like to add on to the left side of the garage, which is the south end of the garage, and I'd like to match the existing 15 or the same setback as the two-car garage which is the 15-foot setback. So what you could envision is a addition to the left of this garage, and the front, the face would be approximately flush to the existing front. And I have other pictures that I can, or other diagrams that I can show you. Any questions on this slide before I move on? All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. So this shows the two different surveys. The survey on the left is the 2010 survey, which was completed. The survey was completed prior to building the garage. So you can see I initially planned on having the garage 10 feet from the property line. In actuality, if you look at the right survey, which is the most recent one that was just done weeks ago in 2022, you can see it's actually 15 feet from the property line. And then you can even see another 12 feet away is the actual edge of Driscoll Avenue. Now, back over to the left survey in 2010, you can see I have a proposed garage, which is what I was going for the variance. But I knew that at some point I wanted to add on to this when I had the funds and the time to do it. And so you can see here, back in 2010, the survey that was submitted for the variance for this garage included this floor extension. When I had the concrete poured for this garage as planned, I had it poured this additional, south to the left of the garage location. And so over on the right in 2022 survey, you can see it specified here. This is the existing garage. And then I want to add this addition to the left side. I suspected, or I guess I assumed, which obviously is an incorrect thing to do in my situation, that when I talked to Mr. Asman about getting a permit for this just a few months ago, I thought that it would be just included within the variance that I, received 12 years ago. But in fact, if you read the variance, it doesn't specifically say that it would include it, and so that's why we decided to go for the modification to the variance, as opposed to a whole new variance. Although, as Julia mentioned, it probably is not that big of a difference. But anyway, Julia, did I capture that correctly?
Yep, and then I would just, the other thing to point out there is your sewer line.
Yes, yep. Any questions on this slide before I go to the next?
What is the dimension of the pad?
It's 12 feet in the north, south, and the up and down direction, and then it's 24 feet from front to back.
Mm-hmm. And how far to the neighbor's property from the end of that?
Oh, that's not listed here, but if that's 15, then you're probably talking 30, probably 45, probably 50 feet.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll go on to the next picture. This, shows basically, this is my fairly average car in terms of length. I venture to say it's not a tiny car, but it's not a Suburban. And you can see when you park it in the driveway, there's a good 13 feet here of driveway before the edge of the road, and so there's a significant amount of room. It's not like the back end of the car hangs into the road by any means. Even if they were to put sidewalks down this road, which as far as I know, there's no plans to do so. But if there were, there's still room that I could park a normal car in the driveway without it overhanging into the sidewalk. So it's it's not really pushing any limits of parking with intruding into the public way. All right, I'll go on to the next slide. So this shows this is a very rough representation of something like I would build on the side. And this would, is how I would like to do it, both aesthetically and utility wise, to just basically match the front setback. So it kind of just blends into the garage. I'd probably drop the roof line a little bit here to break up that face. And then this lower picture basically shows how it would have to be built and positioned to comply with that 25-foot setback, which aesthetically is probably not ideal. But as Julia inferred, there's actually our sewer line that I think is in my next picture. This whole picture rotated. So now this is looking down at Driscoll and looking down at Sheridan. Very tall tree in my backyard. There's a sewer line that goes right along the backside of the garage. And then there's a clean out here, and it goes all the way to the manhole in the street. And so for me to comply with that setback, I'd end up having to, it would essentially interfere with the sewer line. And it's a general no-no to bury the sewer line in cement or put cement over that. And there's, due to this distance, there really is not an opportunity to maintain that required grade of the sewer line. By snaking it around here, you'd end up increasing the length by snaking it around, and you wouldn't be able to achieve that required grade to get it to the manhole. Does that make sense so far to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a few pictures. I've got, I think, the next three slides, which are my last three slides. I just have a smattering of pictures of different properties in our neighborhood. And I just, I want to be aware of the character of the neighborhood and to not infringe upon it. So you can see we have, our neighborhood's fairly old, so it has some very small bungalow houses from the early 1900s, and then it's got some brand new fairly large houses as well. There's a house right down at the end of Driscoll on Baysky that has a 3-car garage here with a split level house. And then moving on, there's another. This is on 18 SP, so just one street over. This is a small bungalow that's somewhat near the structure is pretty near the corner. It's not within the 25 setback from the boundary. But of course, this was probably 1920 to 1930 built house. And then there's some extended houses. This addition was put on the right side of this house. This is also right down at the end of Baysky, or end of Driscoll, where it hits Baysky. There's various decent sized buildings, garages and shops in the neighborhood. This is on SP. This is probably this only has 3 doors, but those are double doors. So this is essentially a 5-car garage. We're very lucky to share our neighborhood with the DPW garage. So we have a multi-bay garage here. It's our streets are the first to get cleared, which is great. It makes up for the loud trucks and backup alarms going off all the time. But they're great. They're great neighbors. And then this is the last slide of different houses. You can see there's a theme of garages here. There's a 2-story barn with a 2-car garage. This is a brand new one, you know, with the gambrel roof, you know, significantly taller than the house, and different shaped garages. Here's one that they are optimizing the solar, the southern facing roof, and they designed it that way specifically for solar. And then just another kind of one of the more modern typical houses down on Keene Avenue. So anyway, I guess I think we're lucky to live in a diverse neighborhood. We have little houses, we have big houses, we have no garages, and we have the DPW. And I think ours would fit right in, and I don't think anyone would have any issues with it. Which actually, Julia, did you want to share any information about any neighbors of any abutters of mine in any of their communications?
Yes, Bill, did you put those up on board docs?
But there's a time and a place for doing that,
Oh,
and I don't think we're there yet.
oh yeah, sounds good.
They are on board docs when the board
Okay,
wants
great.
them. They're all consolidated.
And then Gabe, I would just, before we go into the discussion, I just go back to the survey, because I think that's where
Oh
it's
yeah,
gonna be the most helpful for this conversation.
sure.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Did anyone have any questions about this slide or any of the other slides?
Yeah, I have a question, but not specifically on this slide.
Okay.
It's what you did not show on this slide that came from the survey.
Oh. Sure.
If you look at the numbers, the building lot coverage numbers on your 2009, 2010 survey, you have the existing buildings at 1378 and your garage is 672 to give you a total of 2050. Now you add from 2050, you add 670, 286, excuse me, you add 286 to the 2050 for your extension to the garage, and you're at 2166. And in fact, it should be 2300 and something. Because there is a discrepancy between these two surveys.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like one of the surveys is incorrect.
And my question is, which one? Because it's the same guys that did it.
Yeah, no, that's a valid question.
And the concern I have is when you go with the older survey, which said your completed garage, which is as it is outlined here, you know, not covering your concrete pad, you're at 2050, and you add the 286, that kicks you over the allowed coverage.
Right, by how much? What percent?
I don't know. That's math.
Well, let's do it.
So one of the other things too, I mean, I'm just seeing this also, Paul, the discrepancy, but they could have been showing or whether or not they're actually adding the deck into the allowable coverage.
No, they called it a garage, proposed garage.
Yeah, but in the existing, so the right now the discrepancy is in the existing building square footage. So that's where.
Yeah, they downgraded it. Instead of the 2050, they've downgraded it to 1880.
Yeah, so I think existing buildings, I'm wondering in the first one, maybe they accidentally added that deck, which shouldn't be in the coverage since it's not
It's a building.
livable space.
Yeah, but it's an existing building. It's a structure. So my question is, how do we come up with this? Because, yeah, we got two front yards and two side yard or backyards to deal with here in this particular layout. But if we have a discrepancy in the surveys that's gonna keep us under the 15% or not. And then how do we move forward from that and rationalize that number? It looks like it might be more than de minimis.
So there's a few things that could happen here. One is he does have 2 sheds that add to the coverage on site. We spoke, Gabe and I spoke about, you know, the potential of taking out one of those sheds, which would then bring down that number below the coverage that we're talking about in this new survey. I'm confused on the deck part, but that's a whole nother thing. So, because when I calculated it, I found it was over, but then the survey said under, and I trusted the survey, and now this one says over, and I'm all confused. But in that
Good,
whole
join
in
the
that
club
whole
on
time,
this one.
right? In that whole time, we did discuss, you know, the potential of removing one of the sheds because he's building this workshop.
Is the deck covered?
No, it's not.
So
So it
why
doesn't,
would
it doesn't
count?
add to, it doesn't, but
Right, it wouldn't count as coverage then, right? Okay.
no,
But
because
the
it's
challenge here is one of the surveyors, either the new one
Mhm.
or the old one, used different numbers.
yes, and I think that the old one is inaccurate.
Yeah, because he's farther away, you can beat him up easier. But, you know, another question is, while that one simmers, is someplace in your application for this variance, you talked about solar
Yes, yep,
and the roof design that you're showing in your presentation is identical to that of the existing garage. And so what does building the shed have to do with solar? That's not the one you showed originally.
no,
That's
this is
your
one.
alternate one.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I haven't finalized the design of the addition. Both structurally, you know, needs to be completed, as well as the solar evaluation. There's advantages and disadvantages to you know, every roof design. There's basically 2 roof designs that I will be evaluating. One is this one shown, which is, you know, is great for solar due to the southern facing aspect of it. However, it is only a 312 pitch, which is not ideal. The snow doesn't slide off that very readily. And so there's potential that a roof like this, even though it's facing east-west, would actually make more sense, because it is this is a 10-12 pitch, which will slide more readily in the winter. And so these are all things that I need to figure out. I do want to be, you know, open and honest about the different variations of roof designs. I mean, I certainly have locked in the footprint of the building, but in terms of the specific angle of the roof, I don't know yet. But
So-
it would be probably one of these 2 designs.
So structurally, does your concrete slab have footings under it?
Oh, yes, yep, 4 foot.
You're good to build, is what you're saying.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So relative to the timing of us granting or not granting the variance, when are you going to decide on the roof design?
I probably wouldn't go through with the expense and the time of designing the specifics of the building if you know, if I don't know where I'm going to build it. Does that make sense? I don't know that the roof design is a much of a consideration in regards to the variance, but if it is, certainly we can have a discussion.
Well, I drove by it today just to refresh myself, because evidently I was on the board but didn't sign off on this one because I must have been out of town or something.
Okay.
And what struck me was the massiveness of your property. Because you come at it from down the road there, and it's like you got the corner lot and 2 large buildings on it. And what I'm struggling with is, you know, the percentage coverage and putting more big building up it on it.
Right. I mean, to be clear, the house is like a 1,600-foot cape, which does pale in comparison to all of anything new construction over since 1980. And the, you know, and the garage is you know, I would say average 2-car size garage at the moment. Certainly by extending it, it will be bigger than that. But yeah, compared to the pictures in the presentation of the other houses in the neighborhood, I don't think it would negatively affect the character of the neighborhood.
No, I tend to agree with you on that. I'm just saying, you know, what you're going to propose for your addition, we ought to be clear on it instead of writing you a blank check. That's where I'm going.
Okay, yeah, and I see what you're saying. I wouldn't want a blank check. If I, for instance, limit the options to the 2 that I've reduced down to on this presentation, meaning this, you know, kind of continuation of the general roof line versus where to go. Versus something like this, if I can, you know, agree that it will be only one of those 2, would that make you feel more comfortable, or do you want me to commit to one of them? And I could do that right now, if I had to, but I don't know why I would want to.
Yeah, you know, I just, you know, that's where I'm coming from. I don't have an answer to that. This is, you know, a board event, and so my comments have to be tempered by or overruled by the rest of the board.
Okay. I did the math just because I was curious on that. This survey, you know, the most recent survey indicates that I'm below the 15%. But if you kind of do worst case, if you use some of the high numbers from the prior survey and then add on, you know, add to it what I'm adding, that ends up being, instead of a 15%, it ends up being 15.57%. So we're not, you know, I'm not blowing the number out of the water, but and that is assuming that the old survey is correct, which I have no idea. So it's, but I wanted to bring that up. It's not that we're not even at 16%. we're technically still at 15%, 0.57.
All right. So, board members, I have dominated the questioning. I apologize if you guys had some questions you wanted to ask. So, Brad, any questions?
Yeah, no, actually, I don't have any questions for our applicant on this. I do have some questions I would like to run by the board though, when we get to that point.
All right, thank you. John, you're next.
Nope, I'm good with the plan, as the footing, that he wouldn't have to push it back the extra 5 feet. I'm just concerned about like you've been saying, Paul, the difference between the 2 percentages.
Okay, Leslie?
No, other than what are the chances that at least one of the sheds is going to come down? And where will it go? Not our business where it goes, but
Goes inside his new addition.
yeah, no. No, I guess I don't.
Okay, Paige?
No, no questions for the applicant.
Okay, it sounds like there's other questions.
There's some other questions for the board or for Bill, but I'll hold them.
Well, you're the bottom of the list. Unfortunately, it's just the way it's shown on my screen right now. But let's start with those other questions.
Sure. I mean, I would sort of prefer to know what the correct numbers are before we really move forward on this. And I don't know if that's something that we can ask for confirmation of, if that's something that can be easily verified or not.
He should be able to do that with a phone call or two to his surveyor. That's a pretty straightforward thing. They might
I
have.
would
to
think
go
so.
out.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So that was one question. The other is in terms of timing, what's driving the timing for this? And if it would be possible to maybe defer this until we knew whether or not this would exceed the lot coverage and had a better sense of what the correct numbers were.
Yeah, so that goes back to the applicant. What is the timing issue for you?
You know, I guess as usual, or not surprising, that the sooner the better. But there's no, I mean, this is just an addition that has no set timeline. I guess there's only a couple different options in regards to the clarification of the survey. So either the surveyor agrees that or confirms that the recent survey is correct and the old survey is null and void and error, in which case maybe, you know, that's one option. The other option is that they figure out that the new survey is an error. Sorry, the new survey is in error actually, and that pushes me over. In which case, then we would have the discussion in regards to the, you know, removing a shed, for instance, if that made sense.
Or adjusting the variance potentially. I mean, but I as what I'm hearing from the board is that the board is uncomfortable with the not knowing the definite numbers that they're going to be asked to approve. If the board was to continue this, Gabe, and with the idea that we could tidy up the numbers and come in with a with a firm set and a firm ask, would that be satisfactory for the board?
I think it would be. And as far as those numbers, my hunch, I would say bet, but I don't want to go that far. My hunch is the new survey missed one of the sheds. And if that's the case, and if you got rid of the shed, in other words, if we continue this and you get the correct numbers, would you be willing to undo one of those sheds to keep us under the 15%?
Yeah, if that did the trick, then yeah, no, I would entertain that.
Because I measured the areas, you know, of those sheds just by putting a ruler on the screen, which, you know, is fraught with error. And you've got, you know, 100 square foot on one and 150 square foot on the other, plus and minus. And either one of those would bring it under the 15% if they missed that in the current survey.
Right. Yeah. No, it's hard to just, I can't even guess where the error would be. It could be there. They're a professional surveyor. You'd think they wouldn't miss a building.
Yeah.
You know, it happens more often in not necessarily with you guys in zoning, but we do see it a lot in, stormwater and utilities. Things get, no one's perfect, things get missed. So it's one of those things where I think it was March who signed off on this one. So basically, since he's using his land surveying stamp, saying that he says that all of these numbers are correct, you would just, tell him what we said, and then he would have to write us a letter basically explaining how he went about his surveying, and back up his numbers.
That's the new guy, is March. We can't read the
Yes.
signature on the old guy.
It was Murray on the old one, so you can see it in the stamp.
Oh, okay, I can't read that fine print.
William
So
Murray,
It's a
yep.
different person. Okay,
Yeah, so it's, and surveys only last for 3 years legally, so we wouldn't really be able to, that survey is kind of irrelevant. It is really interesting that they aren't matching though, but we can't make any legal decisions based on that survey since it's over the 3-year limit.
so I'm leaning towards a continuance here to get these numbers resolved. And if in that intervening, let's call it months, if you're on for the January schedule, if you could tell us, you know, which design that you would be leaning towards, just to make people like me comfortable that that's what you're gonna do, or if the solar issues are that you can't go with the pitched roof and you got it, or the sloped roof and you got to go with the pitched shed roof structure, so be it. Just let us know what it is you're gonna do.
Sounds good.
So to that, again, I apologize for you, you know, sitting in on the earlier case and taking so long to find out you got to be continued as well. But if we could get somebody to make a motion for a continuance on this.
Can I add something before
Oh,
we?
yeah, sure.
before we do that? Sure.
Yeah.
Last week I took the webinar on vested rights and non-conforming structures and uses. And if it was my understanding through 40A that if you had a conforming property, but you had non-conforming structures on it, that you can issue a variance to the non-conforming structure, which makes it no more non-conforming than it was before, without even, I'm sorry, without needing a variance. So the variance
If
that
the
he
structure
had,
already exists.
the structure that already exists is already there. So I don't believe that you even need to have a variance if there was already a non-conforming, because it's not, you're not making the structure any more non-conforming. than
Yeah,
what
if
it
it's
was
not
before.
exacerbating it, it could be done with a special permit. Yeah, that's
Well, actually, if it's a variance, you're not using 40A then.
no, but if there was a variant, you're saying if there was a non-conforming structure currently for whatever reason
On a conforming lot,
on a conforming lot, and they
So the
wanted
house.
to-
the house or the garage.
The
Because
garage
the-
wouldn't count because that was done by variance.
Right, so that now is, if you put the addition on that, it's no longer any more non-conforming.
right.
So the variance should include that, and we shouldn't have to need this discussion.
But
I'll
I
have to
think
look that up. I don't know. The building commissioner.
we have done quite a few of these in the past, and you're raising a great point, Brad, whether it's a special permit or a variance. And what I mean by we've done several of these in the past, it's to extend a nonconformity.
Right.
And
And
so,
this would be to exacerbate a nonconformity.
Right, but I believe this was already in the footprint of the original variance, was it not?
yeah, so it's not
No.
extending, it's
So
not.
so it's
a
not
new-
changing anything.
Right.
No,
it's-
because it's considered exacerbation because you're exacerbating the nonconformity by building up. So they already had the concrete pad. And that's why what Rick was saying, you know, in the reason why he wanted to do a modification of a variance in this case was because it was like insinuated and there was this concrete pad discussion, and that, you know, it was just strange that in that decision that they really didn't talk about the fact that the structure was going to be there. When we do things, we say, you know, what do you want to do in the next 10 years? If you plan on building out, like, what's your end goal? That's what you ask for. And then you know, hopefully exercise some of it within 3 years, and then you can do what you want later. Unfortunately, no one told Gabe that. And so, and I think, you know, there was just some lost in translation on the administrative side. So but yes, you do bring up a really good point of, the exacerbation versus the extension. And where there's already a variance and the modification versus maybe even no variance at all and no public hearing, just allowing it to go through. I think Rick wanted to edge on the side of caution because it's insinuated, but the intent or the insinuation in a legal document can be problematic.
So I think I understand, Julia, what you're saying. My, however, is that variance permit of days gone by, or variance approval, excuse me, of the days gone by, gave him the garage.
Mhm.
Yes, he didn't build it to the setback that he was allowed. That's okay. But he built the structure. That variance is now part of the document for the property. And so I would say it's conforming to the point that it was an approved adjustment by putting that setback in for the garage. And so now he's coming in front of the board to put in an addition of some structure type against that garage. And so when does that pre-existing approved variance just become history of the structure? When we've had so many cases in town of something that was developed before the setbacks and whatever else.
Exactly.
And
So that's the difference. So most of the ones that the variances that come before us they're on a non-conforming structure that hasn't had a variance in the past.
Well, they're on a
So that,
non-conforming lot, is what you're saying.
or they were on it. So basically that's why this one is so unique, because let's say that he didn't want to do that addition on the garage, but he wanted to do it on the house, which is a non-conforming structure. Because it doesn't meet setbacks, front. It's only 15 feet off of the front, and it's supposed to be 25. So, and I think there's an issue on the side as well. But in that case, that would just go through a regular depending on what side he goes on. But it would let's say he put it on the same exact side, and it would only meet that 15-foot setback again. You're exacerbating that nonconformity. You're not extending it and making it less. You're making it worse because you're now going further. That house was built in the early 1900s, pre-1956, when zoning came into play. So that's why we would go through this. So that's when we have structures that already have been approved through a variance process, we want to ensure that that those variances are tied together, which we can do with a new variance. We would just make the old variance an exhibit, and so that way it stays on that title and is tied going into the future. But that's, I think, the difference between extending and exacerbating, but also variance approved structures versus pre-zoning structures.
So I think this is in line with what you're saying, Julia, but I'm still trying to clarify it. The survey was done the 16th of December.
Yes.
The modification to the variance, or excuse me, the petition was on the 22nd of December. So he had not planned to build that full concrete at the time he came in front of the board. That, full
Wait, hold on.
The survey was done before he came in front of the board.
Are you talking back in 2010?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Can you go back to the side-by-side surveys, Gabe? Thank you. Okay. So you're saying, so when he did this he did the survey and put the proposed structures on it.
Yes, and that was December 16th of 2009 is when the surveyor signed off on it. And it's the diagram here on the left. The zoning board didn't hear it until the 22nd of December 2009. And so his plan was, and the zoning board approved, the proposed
The
garage, with the
proposed-
proposed extension.
Yes, but they didn't put that in writing in the actual decision.
But the reference documents would have included this survey. And so, yes, it is in there.
It's not a good situation legally. It's one of those things where the intent of the decision, it needs to be clear and spelled out in the written decision.
It was just that Rick, and that may have been, there may be an argument for that, Paul, but in this case, it was specific that the building commissioner, was familiar with the situation, and his suggestion for the remedy was, as Julia said. So it kind of puts us where,
So can we cross the Ts and dot the Is tonight and move on with this, or do we really need to come back and look at this again? Another
I
meeting.
don't have the percentages. I don't have the footage coverage. I don't know where the error is on the 15%.
Right,
But
how about,
okay.
can I make
ahead.
a suggestion?
Sure.
How about, and you also, Paul, you had mentioned your concern about just which roof line I'd go with, and how about, so first of all, as far as the roof line goes, how about I commit to this roof line? And then also, let's assume that if the surveyor gets back to me and confirms that the current survey is correct, then we're below the 15% coverage, in which case we're good to go. If the surveyor comes back, and this should be hopefully tomorrow, and says that, oh, in fact, we're above the 15% coverage, and deleting one of the sheds would bring us below, then I would agree to do that. So there's really only kind of those are the only two options.
well,
And
the other
it could be
option,
resolved in a day or two as opposed to a month.
yeah, the other option, if the board chose, the board could do a not to exceed for the coverage.
Yeah,
And just say not to exceed whatever the most conservative, yes, for example, 16%, whatever, not the variance,
oh, I
think-
see.
right?
I
not
think
to
my
exceed.
biggest concern is that, the decision that was written in 2010 it's not clear, and it's really weak legally. So either way, I would like to see that decision modified to be clear and specific on what is going to be allowed, whether or not that's a new variance or a modification. That's my biggest concern right now. I mean, we go through these variances paperwork, from the late 1990s and early 2000s. And I don't want to make a problem for, future me in 15 years when, maybe Gabe sells the house and someone wants to go and modify something. And now we have the same situation. So that's my biggest concern.
And your concern would be alleviated by continuing with the modification to the variance process.
Just getting a decision,
Yeah.
either a modification or a new, I would really like to see a decision here.
I think with a not to exceed, that takes care of everything. If the board's comfortable with the general design and the intent. If they're not, then it's a different story. But I think that would be the way to address this.
So let me ask another crazy question, since we have a legal expert here, Julia. Are these surveys recorded?
Yes,
So if you have a recorded survey and a recorded decision from the board in 2009 or 2010, there is a legal connection.
yes, but it's not written. The
But it-
decision is not clear.
I would say it is, because it cites this, and you've got the survey. And so you have a legitimate connection.
Okay.
right? You go
I mean,
and-
the board can always, I mean, not appeal it, but, challenge the building commissioner's interpretation. I don't know if that's the easiest for everybody right now, but it's certainly the board has this.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're here to provide, recommendations. Obviously, it's your decision.
So the easiest way out, so we can close out tonight with a resolution, is to say that he can put up his garage addition if the surveyor confirms it's less than the 15%, because otherwise we got to do a whole bunch of findings and stuff. And, he's recommended which roof line he wants on it. And we're done. And if you insist that it's a variation on or a modification to a 12-year-old variation, I don't know if I agree with that. I'd rather have it as a clean new document and move forward, be done.
I don't think that's an issue. I think we could do a clean new variance with it. My suggestion, if that's the way, if that's the way the board felt was the best way to proceed, then perhaps the way to do it would be have the staff can take responsibility for verifying with Gabe that the survey was vetted and double checked to this, and we ensure that the whatever numbers are there are double checked and included, memorialized with the decision. So far as the percentages, as I said, my recommendation would be pick a number, and the coverage is not to exceed, and I wouldn't go any further. And if it exceeds, and it doesn't work. So if the board was comfortable with a whatever it was, a 16%, or whatever the number was,
I can't change it from the 15 that's in the zoning laws unless we find.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, the board would have to do new variance, but that's what I'm saying. If you're going to do new variance, that's what I'm saying. Right. You were saying that if you want to do a clean, a whole new variance. Yeah, I agree. You're right.
And so,
Can I just add that I think we should do a new variance in case that initial survey was incorrect, because we don't want to add an amendment to something that we know was already faulty. I'd
Thank
rather
you.
do a clean one.
yes, I like that. So we don't know which survey was wrong or what they left out or whatever the issue was. But if we can water this down to the simplest thing, he's going to stay within the 15% that's in the bylaws. And he's going to continue the frontage of the garage and not extend and make a worse nonconformity. However, that's phrased legally. Did that pass muster, Julia?
Yeah, I mean, so I think what we would do in that situation is just, require Gabe to record the new survey, so that it's attached to the title, so that when someone else, the next person, if he sells his house, that they can find it, because it doesn't get recorded unless we require it. Not every survey is going to go up to the registry of deeds.
We could just make it an exhibit on the variance too, because we do require the variance to be recorded. So we could just do that to an exhibit, make it an exhibit.
Yeah, just in case he ends up not doing a full variance. We just want to make sure that, and then that will take care of the inaccuracy of the old one.
So do we have enough here to make a motion? And without having to repeat everything in the motion structure, can we just say, as you guys just said? Make it simple? Does that work, Julia?
Oh, I'm going to defer to Bill on this one.
I think it does. I think it works. I think it works. I'm gonna ask Julia to craft the decision. So I'll let her frame
So
it, but
sorry, I'm confused. Are we making a decision right now, or are we making?
No, we got to
a
do the motion
continuance?
first.
right,
We got to do the motion.
We
And
need to,
A motion
we need
for
to
what?
close the public portion of the discussion first.
yeah, you're right. Sorry, Brad. I got ahead of myself again. So we've been discussing this in public, so let's close out the public comment period with a motion. You want to do that, Brad?
Sure. I propose a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
All right, do I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I think we got everybody, right? So, again, another long-winded session and I talked too much, but hopefully we got something figured out here that might work for Gabe. Is there any other comments we want to make before we go into making a motion to make things happen? No, I don't hear anything. So we need a volunteer to make a motion that finds that 15% coverage or less with the new garage addition. And it is not going to exacerbate the nonconformity that exists now at 15 feet. Those are the key points, right? And to meet that, he's got an option of 2 sheds out back that one or both of them might need to go away if the survey is not accurate.
Mr. Chair, are you suggesting this is a new variance or modifying?
New variant.
existing? New variance, okay.
So those are the conditions. I should not make the motion. I'll let one of you guys made it, but I just wanted to capture the key points. Did I miss any key points? I hear none, so I need somebody to make the motion. You can
Can
just say as you know, so moved or something like that. Make it real simple.
Go Paige.
I'll move it, but could I also slightly modify it to add that I think it still meets the criteria for a variance as identified in the prior decision in terms of the uniqueness of the lot
point.
and the other items.
Sure.
So then so moved as just modified.
Do I got a second?
Second.
Yes.
Yay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that passes. That's awesome. So Gabe, you got something.
Thank you very much.
So you need to work with Bill and the building commissioner and Julia to confirm those numbers because we're going to hold you to it. One way or
Sounds
the
good.
other.
I will reach out to the surveyor first thing tomorrow.
Great.
All right. And
Thank you.
Bill, you will let us know after Gabe tells you what happened.
We will keep you updated as we have any developments on this.
All right.
Thank you.
So we have another motion that we need.
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Do we have a second? Yay,
Second.
Yes.
we're done. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you for staying late. I appreciate it.
Motion for Bill's dinner.
Have a good night all.
Bye. Thanks,
And-
everybody.
Bill, thank you for recommending the structures, the webinar for
Cool, what? Pretty good
non-conforming
stuff.
uses of structures and vested rights and non-conforming structures. Very, very interesting. It,
Who taught it? Who taught that one?
oh, I don't know. I've seen 4 of them lately. So I don't remember who it was. I have the notes and everything, so I can write it down.
Yeah, I'm
It
curious.
was very good, though. It was
Good.
good.
Yeah, they're good courses. I know you get a bang out of those.
That was applied tonight. That worked very well.
Yeah.
I
Good
enjoyed
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow. We
Thanks.
gotta catch up. We should talk up. We should talk before, obviously before the planning board hearing, but I'm meeting with Jeff Swanberg tomorrow,
Okay, I
No.
want to see,
Thursday. He wants to just have some clarification on some stuff. So I think what I'm gonna do tomorrow is